Patrick Lencioni, we're shifting gears, not even using a clutch here. Patrick Lencioni is one of the Global Summit's all-time favorite faculty members. He's a best-selling author. He's a highly sought-after business consultant. He, as well, is doing consultant work with churches now and NGOs and so. If you've not read his book called The Advantage, you're really missing out. Everyone should read it. Now, some of you know, a couple of years ago, we had a key speaker cancel at the very last moment. We called Patrick at the 11th hour and 59th minute. He agreed to come with almost no preparation time to fill in for that speaker. The evaluation of that session went through the roof. I personally felt that he benefited from a sympathy vote. We already had him scheduled to come back, which would have been last year, and he spoke last year, and his evaluation was unbelievable. And we paid a bit of attention to those kinds of things. So as we were praying about who to invite to our faculty for 2013, the Summit team felt we owed it to Patrick to give him a year off. Let him rest up, let him write another best-selling book, maybe have another kid. He's got 4 of them already, so maybe he's under challenge and needed to do that. My thought was exactly the opposite. I said, let's see if he can do a hat trick. Let's see if he can come back and just have a fantastic talk again. In fact, let's keep having him come every year until he bombs. And then we'll rest him up and let him write another book and have another kid. But he's back, and we're glad he's back. Please welcome Patrick Lencioni.
All right. Well, this is the year I bombed, so let's get ready for that. Yeah, 10 years ago this month, I was here at Willow Creek for the first time, and I remember my wife came, and we were like blown away, and I thought, well, I'll never get to do that again. And so it's always a treat to come back. See people I know, I get distracted. I'm not going to do the old look bird thing this year, though, you know. And so I'm very excited to be here. It's great to be here for Jimmy's last summit, too. It's very special. I'm also really excited to give this particular talk, which I've not done here, and I don't give very often. It's probably my favorite talk. But before I get into that, I do need to do my confession, because I'm an evangelical Catholic here, you know. And I do need to confess that, as I said before, everything I cover is really simple. You know that if you've read my books or heard me speak, and I know that. And I'm okay with that. But this book and this material I'm going to talk about today of how to lose your best people, this is really, really simple. It's probably the simplest talk or the simplest book I have. And I just want to let you know that. There's no rocket science here. You already know this stuff. It's just going to be a reminder. As General Powell said, that's what our job as reminders are. I like to say when you're a leader, you're a CR, the Chief Reminding Officer, more than anything else. And so what I'm going to do is remind you of some things you already know. And I'm okay with that. Samuel Johnson once said people need to be reminded more than they need to be instructed, and I believe that to be the case. By the way, before I forget, hi, Mom. Mom's in Bakersfield, California at a church watching, so I had to say hi to Mom. I was going to forget. Don't forget to say hi to Mom. Okay. The second thing is I do get distracted easily, the look bird thing, you know that. And so I know it's not feasible or practical to take questions here today, which is what makes it so fun. So we're going to do questions. The first 2 people that ask a question will get a free book, but it has to be about the material. It can't be, I want a book now, okay? Okay, so let's dive in here. The reason why this is my favorite book and my favorite subject to talk about is because it's nearest to my heart. It's the reason why I started my career in this field, and it started when I was a kid. You see, I was 8 or 9 years old. I remember this well. My dad, God rest his soul, he would come home from work every day after 9 or 10 hours of work, and he was a great salesman. He was one of the top salesmen in his company. He was really good at what he did. He loved his customers, but darn it if he didn't come home and complain every night, because his company drove him crazy. It was really a pain. And I didn't know what was going on. You know, I was 8 or 9 years old, but I remember feeling bad for my dad and thinking, that's just a shame. I remember selfishly thinking, one of these days I'm going to have to get one of those job things, I think, and that's going to stink for me too. And I thought, wouldn't it be great to do something about that? But of course I was a kid, you know, I wasn't Alex P. Keaton, you know, from Family, what's that show where he had strictly gone off and being a consultant. I was 8 or 9 years old. But I remember very distinctly that day thinking, that job thing, that's a problem. And then when I was 12, I think, I got my first job, if you will. I was at the barber shop, and the barber said, "Hey kid, how would you like to make $20 this weekend?" You know, and I said, $20? Buy a lot of baseball cards with that. And so that weekend, my dad drove me and some friends out, put us in the back of the pickup out to the desert outside of Bakersfield, California, to this shooting range, where they threw us into a hole behind a big mound of dirt, and they blow a horn, and we'd run out and prop up these metal pigs, these targets of metal pigs, and then they blow the horn in 5 seconds, and we'd scramble and dive into the hole, and bullets would be flying over our head. And I remember that day saying, I can't wait to go to college. Because I remember thinking, I gotta get a good job someday. And I had other jobs as in the summer as a kid. We've all had, now our kids don't, they go to sports camps. But remember when we had jobs? And I remember, gosh, I have to get a good job someday. That's it. The secret to life is to get a good job. So I went to college and I studied really hard. And I remember my friends would party more and they'd say, "Come on, do it." And I'd say, "No, I have to study hard." And I remember thinking, I have to get a good job. And so I did pretty well, and it came my senior year, and this management consulting firm that you've heard of came onto campus to recruit. And that year they had written a book about the best places to work in America for college grads, and this was ranked #1. They paid the most money. Hey, how you doing? And they paid the most money. And you got good experience, and you get to work with lead CEOs, and this was the #1 place. So I interviewed, and I should have known something was wrong when I got all the way through the process and they offered me a job, because I didn't have the experience. And so they offered me a job, but before I took the job, before I accepted, they took me and the other candidates up to San Francisco to the office there, and the big partners there wined us and dined us and took us out to dinner and did a dancing, and they said, "We want you to work here, we're going to change your life, you're going to be the best and the brightest." And so I finally accepted the job, and a couple months later after graduation, I started. And it was just 2 days into that job when I had this feeling, I'm going to be miserable. And I didn't know why, but you know that show? That's a great show. Me and my kids, my 4 boys, they love that show too. They like it because most of the episodes have something to do with poo. You know, they're like, "Ooh!" I love it because, that's going to be a translation problem, I'm sorry.